Good morning, everybody. It is just after 9 o'clock here on a Monday morning. Yes, hope you had a good weekend. Just waking up with us here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Jane Monreal here in the Charlotte area, waking up to a wet morning. Roads were wet when I came in, certainly, as we take a look right now with our Chris Mulcahy, and checking things out, seeing some spotty action. Green on the radar, Chris. Haven't seen that in a while.
Yeah, so put in that perspective, for the first 25 days of October, we had 7/100ths of an inch of rain. Ooh. Yesterday, we had 7/100ths of an inch of rain, so that brings us to 0.14 or 14/100ths. Today, we're going to double, triple, quadruple, quintuple, septuple that, so it's going to be well over an inch of rain likely through today, tonight, heading into tomorrow. And right now, as you look through our Monroe camera, James, we can jet over to Weather 2 for our sourceages. I know you're used to the Weather 1 world, but you can see all that widespread rain. So this really does put it in perspective what we are dealing with, and that rain's just going to continue to be on and off. Here's what's happening actively right now around the Monroe area. It is widespread rain, but it's barely trickling down right through there. And what you need to know is, straight up, it's going to rain. That's the range that we're in. It already has rained. It will continue to rain. There will be some breaks here and there, and it will be even heavy at times, but especially today and tonight into tomorrow morning looks to be the sweet spot, and then we'll have another widespread swath heading into your Wednesday night and ending by your Thursday morning. So right now, if you look closely to the left, that is our active viewing area, 22 counties that we cover here at WCNC. It is 51 degrees right now, 40 around Boone. Guess what the temperature was at 5 a.m.? 51 degrees. Temperatures have not moved too much, so do not really expect our temperatures to change too much. So many times this time of year, we start off the morning, oh, well, you got to plan for the afternoon. What you're wearing right now is going to be just fine. But hopefully you're wearing either rain boots, rain jacket, or have the umbrella. Definitely a long sleeves and pants type of day. And it's just going to be kind of a miserable day. But we also need this rain. We desperately need this rain because we are getting deeper and deeper into drought territory. So just kind of keep that in mind. So let's get right to it. So for our Futurecast, you have rain that's really filled in the gaps in the short term. So let me rewind here. So you have rain that is completely taken over. That's actively right now. By the conclusion of the morning into the early afternoon, so lunchtime, we are going to have some breaks, but not too much. So I think at that point, it's either not raining or you have some mist and drizzle in between, or it's just going to be all light to moderate rain showers. That's going to keep this around for most of the day. This is the good soaking rain, the ones that you want, but with winds out of the northeast and moisture blasting in from the south, that is that perfect conveyor belt of constant rain throughout the day, and that's exactly what we're going to have for the entirety of your Monday heading into Tuesday. That's why we've been isolating today as an impact day compared to just a regular rain day. We do not have this for your Tuesday or your Wednesday, and the main reason why is because there's not nearly as much rain expected on those days compared to the time frame, again, this afternoon, tonight, heading into tomorrow morning. So that's why I especially have these bars isolated from about 4 o'clock till 5 a.m. tomorrow. I think tomorrow morning is going to be a rougher commute than we otherwise will be having, say, for this morning's commute so far, which still wasn't great. Becca was still dealing with a lot of incidents overall. Now, as far as how much rain we're going to see across this entirety, and this is not just today and tonight, this is also for your Tuesday night, Wednesday, and Wednesday night. I think it's mainly about 1 to 2 inches across the Charlotte area from around Concord and Salisbury down through Rock Hill and Fort Mill and so on and so on. But the further northwest you go, around the foothills in the mountains, about 2 to 3 inches of rain. So the kind of hindrance that we have here is this is cutting into kind of the last countdown of fall. The pumpkin picking, the corn mazes is going to be super muddy now. And then also those looking at the last minute fall foliage, well, this rain and the winds are going to take a lot of the leaves off the trees. And that's one thing that especially a weather app and then sometimes even our forecasts overlook, that we're so focused on temperatures and rain chances that we kind of overlook like, oh, how windy is it going to be? Well, we are anticipating gusts from 25 to even 35 miles per hour throughout the course of the afternoon heading into the evening. So the problem with this is it's going to take more leaves off the trees, which is going to be a less dazzling fall foliage display, but it's bigger than that because wet leaves on the ground are actually one of the biggest hazards that we can have. So let's take 45 miles per hour. We're not just raising your weather IQ, we're also raising your traffic IQ as well. So what happens here in this scenario is whenever you have say 40 mile per hour forward and seed, say that it's a dry road, you don't have to worry about it. Well, the stopping time at that point is actually 80 feet. Once you talk about a wet road is actually 160 feet. So when you just add rain to the road, it's a doubling for the stoppage that you have at 40 miles per hour. Now add leaves to the mix. Not 160, 250 feet moving at 40 miles per hour. So some of those back roads, say some of those school zones, you have to keep an ample distance. I would slow it down even below 40, even if that's the speed limit, if it's a leaf-covered road. We have a lot outside. I just did a little mobile short for us, threw it on my Instagram page, that sometimes when you have these conditions, especially, I don't know if you guys saw it right outside of our station, you can lose traction as much as if it's snow on the ground.
Yeah, I noticed already coming into our front gate. I was thinking, oh wow, a lot of leaves here.
A lot of leaves here. And you're like, oh,
slippery already.
That looks nice. But oh no.
Nice.
Contrairement, frere, not so nice. Yeah, 250 foot stopping distance is substantial, especially where we're used to 80 feet. So I just want people to know mine, and not saying for you to test this out, but if you were to slam your brakes on the conditions that we have on a lot of these back roads, boy, you're going to be fishtailing. So you can lose control as well. So that's kind of an outside danger that I want people to know about. Also, it's been super dry recently. Whenever you have rain after a dry spell, especially 10 days or more, that can well up 2 to 3 times the oils that are on the roads. So it's not a great traffic situation. At one point back, I had about 20 active incidents on the map. I think it's going to be even worse tomorrow, but once we get more rain that's really compiling on itself. So just kind of keep that in mind. Okay, so we talked about the rain totals. I also want to go into tomorrow to really show the difference as far as the rain goes before I go hour by hour. Tomorrow's forecast is almost not moving. You have 49 degrees moving to 50 degrees, and we pretty much stay there. Most of the rain, I think, is going to be in the morning, but I'm not really calling for much sunshine overall. It's just going to be dreary for the most part and not the best looking day. So let's go through the rain chances one more time, how it looks on our Futurecast. So on and off breaks, as I mentioned, bringing this up to tomorrow. Here's 4 a.m. This is what I wanted to mention. I think we're going to have some even heavier downpours, especially tonight heading into tomorrow. That's going to impact our morning commute. So that brings us up to this time tomorrow, and then you have some break in the action. So beyond that, it's going to be on and off, light rain, pretty much what we had if you were up around 5 a.m. But notice what it looks like through the course of tomorrow heading into Wednesday. It doesn't really fill in the gaps until around Wednesday morning, and it's truly the further west that you go. And here, I'll rewind a little bit. The next batch of widespread rain arrives during your Wednesday evening heading into the morning time. So that is going to drag our temperatures down just a little bit for your Tuesday before they come back up. But this is still well below the seasonal norm. We typically should be around 70 degrees for this day in climatology. By Halloween, that average is 68 and our low is 44. Our lows are actually above average. Meanwhile, our highs are well below where we should be. We'll be back into the lower 60s, but still below where we typically are for a typical Halloween. But the good news is, heading into the weekend for celebrating a Dia de los Muertos, it looks to be a great forecast for that. So great time for those magnolia petals. And then you can, or marigold petals, I'm so sorry. I don't want to think it was magnolia. Marigold petals. And then you have increasing clouds heading into your Sunday, but overall you have the lower to the mid 60s. So a great entryway into November. And I also don't have this icon on the map. Don't forget that we fall back. And that means it's going to be a big difference as far as our time is concerned. But there's another thing that I'm concerned about. And truly, Ben Thompson, when he came in, said, why it's so quiet today? The reason why is because I was really looking at the magnitude of this storm, if we can bring this full. This is Hurricane Melissa. Hurricane Melissa is a Category 5. This is only the 45th Category 5 that we've ever had in history. Jamaica has never had a landfall in Category 5 since we've had that record-keeping since dating back to 1924. Well, coming back after the break, we're going to talk about all the ins and outs of Hurricane Melissa, what's going to make this so catastrophic and so historic. We'll see you soon after the break.
Welcome back to Live Impact News here on WCNC Plus. Jane Monreal at 9:15. And right now, just before the break, you heard Chris Mulcahy talk about Jamaica dealing with a Category 5 hurricane. This is courtesy of See Jamaica. Live pictures right now at Kingston Harbor. There in the Caribbean, and nothing like it. Feeling so bad for this island. I mean, Chris, this is going to be just catastrophic because it's been there for so long, and now the strength of it all. And have you seen anything like this?
I'm trying to think. As far as strength and devastation goes, one thing that really comes to mind is no is ever exactly the same as Hurricane Maria. And what its impacts did to Puerto Rico. I would not be surprised if that's too far off, because that was Puerto Rico's big one. But the sad thing is here, and I'll actually bring James in here for discussion as well, is that people don't realize that Jamaica is not just beaches. It actually has a big mountainous area, and the mountains actually peak up to 7,100 feet, and that's actually higher than Mount Mitchell. So we're also talking about significant landslides and mudslides, so I'm not saying Helene, but Helene-type impacts as far as that's concerned.
I was thinking about how Helene metaphorically made communities in western North Carolina islands by cutting them off from the rest of the world. This is non-metaphorically, literally an island already cut off from the rest of the world, and now you're going to bring this historic storm in, and my brain is having a hard time fathoming what the magnitude of that's going to look like in a couple days when this is all done.
Yeah, this is the sad thing is, if you look at Jamaica's infrastructure, a lot of these buildings there are not meant to take a storm like this. Especially some areas are sadly a little bit more poverty-stricken, so they don't have the infrastructure they should. It's not like Bermuda that literally has these codes that only a building can be built up to the standards. That it's not just Jamaica, but it's also eastern Cuba, and we're talking about the western side of Hispaniola, Haiti, that are under these active hurricane warnings. But I almost wish that there was something above that, because there's a hurricane, and then there's this. And this is going to be up there with anything that they've ever seen. For one, there's not a Category 5 that's ever made landfall in Jamaica. Even if this weakens to a strong Category 4, it still would be the strongest landfalling hurricane. And on Friday, I was talking about the concern of flooding without this making landfall. And now this turns into a wind event, flooding event across the board, and then storm surge on top of that. So this is where we've been. When I was last here on WCNC Plus, I was talking about a 45-mile-per-hour tropical storm. It was still tropical storm through Friday, heading into Saturday, and then it went through rapid intensification. Technically, this is categorized as extreme rapid intensification, where it quickly went from 70 to 140 miles per hour in a 24-hour period. Extreme rapid intensification is when you go 58 plus in that time frame. And then it strengthened to 160, and I would not be surprised if it tries to kind of exceed those bounds by maybe up to 165 to 170. Luckily, it will start to kind of unravel. I'm hoping that the eye wall closes in slightly to try to weaken it before landfall, but it stood out there way too long. You give any of these storms enough time, they want to grow. There's things that were working against it. So say if Melissa started getting caught by some sort of system, it would have been out of here. It would have been still excessive rain, but it wouldn't be this historic storm. Because any time we hit a hurricane season, we don't want the one. I'm letting you know, before it even makes landfall, Melissa is the one. This will also be the one that Jamaica will always remember. Before that was Hurricane Gilbert, and we'll get to the impacts of what that did back in 1988. But also, this is a historic storm for another reason. This is only the second time in history, dating back to the early 1900s, since 1924, that we've had 3 Category 5 storms pop up in a season. The most we've ever done was 2005. You had 4. This is the third that we've had this season. And then there's been 7 other times that there's been 2 in a given season. But this is only the 8th time that we've had a Category 5 form in October. It was early October that I did a weather IQ on the most devastating or infamous hurricanes to ever happen in October. If I were to do that exact same story next year, I'll be talking about Melissa. That's how serious this is. This is going to be a catastrophic storm. This is number 3 for Category 5s. But Erin was a miss at the Carolinas. It caused some erosion. Umberto, a big name just because it was dancing around another storm. Melissa's going to stand out on its own, 160-mile-per-hour winds. And I think the best comparison I give, and I'll bring this back up for discussion before I move any further, is that Hurricane Michael made landfall in Mexico Beach with 160-mile-per-hour sustained winds. It actually was a Category 4. They upgraded it, and it leveled Mexico Beach. You're looking at one swath of Jamaica likely is going to have that same sort of devastation when this makes landfall. Because look at this. This is massive. It's only moving to the west at right now 3 miles per hour, and it's taking its time. So right now, it might not seem anything. Tropical storm force winds are picking up across Jamaica right now. You have rain that's now starting to pick up. So since this is slow moving, you have that precursor rain on top of the ones that are really just going to dump it all at once. And here's what it looks like. So Hurricane Melissa, slowing this down for you, has 160-mile-per-hour winds as of 1 a.m. There's a chance that it's either going to be about 155, 160, so it's going to be really close. We're splitting hairs here by 2 miles per hour because 157 is a Category 5. It's going to make landfall, I think, at either 155 to 160 miles per hour. It's very warm waters at that point. And then when it comes out the other side, and that's going to be right around Ocho Rios, just giving one example of what's over there, 130-mile-per-hour winds at that point. And then once it crosses Cuba, it likely is going to be making landfall, I think, as a Category 3 or a strong 4, so it's about 130 to 120 miles per hour. That would be about Hugo strength. And then once it moves past the Bahamas, it's a Category 2, 100-mile-per-hour winds. And one other thing to mention is, look, Bermuda. It looks like it could move directly over Bermuda as a Category 1 hurricane. So this is hitting multiple spots. This is why there's oftentimes the speculation in the weather world is like, well, it could be retired. If this has come to fruition, we're talking about our retired storm for 2025. Chantal was a deadly storm. It was a tropical storm. We haven't had a landfalling hurricane here in the Carolinas. Everything else has been mainly a fish storm. So this one is the one that separates itself from all the rest. Here's a look at what the winds are going to be. And this is just model data. It's truly not picking up on the single site what the really strong winds are. One common misconception with hurricanes, and that's why I brought up Mexico Beach with Hurricane Michael, is they're like, oh, 160 miles per hour. That literally is a tiny sliver. That's right on the right side of the eye wall in the direction that it's going. But here's an example of what the winds could be. Up to about 60 miles per hour. This is later on this evening. So that means they're talking about strong tropical storm force winds by this evening. And then here we go. 86 miles per hour, and this is right around Bull Savannah. And it's really, I think, the western side. It's right around what's called St. Elizabeth Parish that looks to be in line. I can't name the specific towns where it's going to be, but that's where I think the strongest winds are going to be in general. But then watch. This is 11 p.m., and now let's bring us into about 3 a.m. That's 121 mile per hour sustained winds, close to 100 miles per hour over in the St. Elizabeth Parish area, and that's well inland as well. So that's strong eye wall activity, and I think likely the eye wall is going to fall. And that's what it's showing right there. Sometime tomorrow morning or late morning. It just depends on how much it speeds up. That's kind of the uncertainty. All you know is that Tuesday morning is going to be a day and a date and a time that Jamaica is always going to remember. Now, the eastern side of Jamaica not dealing with some of those stronger winds, but it's still going to be absolutely horrendous. Here is what it looks like later on in the morning. Ocho Rios seeing at least Category 1 to Category 2 sustained winds at that point to conclude the morning, and then it's out of here. Luckily, it's going to be quick moving, but a lot of rain's also going to be dumps during that time frame. This shows up to 3 a.m., 5 to 7 inches. Watch what happens. Moves up to 15 to 20. So there's going to be a short time period that you're going to have rain rates at 2 to 5 inches per hour, the way it's seeming. So it's also rain that comes before that. And I think very similar to what happened in Gilbert, I would not be surprised if we're having some totals up to about 30 inches that could happen in parts around the island, some of the more mountainous areas. So I think one of the biggest cause of death, and I feel irresponsible of saying this, cause of death, there will be loss of life. This is a life-threatening, deadly storm that's unavoidable because The only way is people would have got off the island. But as James had said with Helene, people are almost stuck on an island. People are literally on an island. And like Katrina, a lot of people that were left there didn't have the money to leave. Most of these people, this is their home. They can't leave. So they can just hunker down. Shorelines could be wiped out essentially with this. And here's what happened with Hurricane Gilbert back in 1988. It made landfall at 140 miles per hour, a Category 4, moving east to west. So the entirety of the island, this one was far worse as far as the winds went. Some of the damage that came from this is that there were 45 to 49 people that died in the storm. There was 100,000 homes that were destroyed, and 80% of all the roofs in Jamaica were blown off. 90% of all healthcare was shut down. It was immobile. We weren't able to do anything about it, and 800,000 people lost shelter due to Gilbert. Now, that was 1988. It is 2025. The population has increased. Now, the one silver lining is the worst of the winds are going to be on the least populated side of the island. So I'm not here to scare. It's never about fear-mongering. There's just a certain point that when it comes to the forecast that you can just really say, hey, this is going to be a bad one. This one's going to be historic, and this is one that they're never going to forget. Hurricane hunters have already gone through that, measuring wind gusts over 180 miles per hour. That's a wind gust. So Hurricane Melissa hasn't even done its impacts yet, but there's going to be parts of the island of Jamaica that aren't going to be the same and are likely going to go through the same recovery that Helene went through. So all we can do is really pray for the people of Jamaica, Cuba, anyone around the Dominican Republic and Haiti that are affected by this massive storm. I thought that we were going to go unscathed, but it looks like kind of at the buzzer beater at the end of hurricane season, Hurricane Melissa is going to join the ranks with names like Matthew and Hurricane Mitch.
Yeah, I mean, having been to Jamaica a number of times, both Ocho Rios, Kingston, and Montego Bay, beautiful island, right? Even with the terrain that might help and break up at least a little bit coming out the other side, but still, like you said, they don't have the money. The infrastructure is poor, many places. It floods easily, and so yeah, I'm preparing to just emotionally feel that pain for our friends and, you know, people with vacation plans, of course. Probably had to cancel that too without saying. But for the people that are stuck and left on the island that have nowhere to go, yeah, really, our thoughts and prayers are going out to them.
Yeah, and you know, I'm the happy-go-lucky fun guy. There was just a certain point that I just kind of sat in silence this morning. You realize, does catastrophic describe this? Because this is just in the ranks of some of the worst that we've seen in hurricane history. So yeah, all we can do is pray and hoping that it's better than everything I just mentioned.
Right. All right. Chris Mulcahy, thanks for that update. And we are going to take a break here on Live Impact News on WCNC+.